Aliyah Boston breaks silence on flagrant elbow that sent Alisha Gray to the floor. Aliyah Boston, one of the brightest young stars in the WNBA and the face of the Indiana Fever, has officially addressed the controversial moment that shocked fans, players, and analysts alike. The elbow. The fall. The flagrant foul. It was a moment frozen in time when Alisha Gray of the Atlanta Dream was struck during a high-intensity game, falling to the floor as the crowd collectively held its breath. For weeks, the incident sat in the air like unfinished business. The league moved on. The media reported. Commentators dissected every slow-motion angle. But the silence from Aliyah Boston, deliberate or not, only added fuel to an already flaring debate. Was the elbow intentional or a pure accident of aggressive gameplay? That silence has now been broken. Aliyah Boston, in a move that felt deeply personal and deliberate, responded directly, not through a press release or a polished post-game interview, but on a social media platform where athletes often walk the tightrope between personal transparency and public scrutiny. A comment on TikTok, seemingly casual but charged with emotion, became the place where Boston chose to speak her truth. And in doing so, she has pulled the curtain back on a moment that had unfairly begun to define her in the eyes of some. The incident took place during a fierce matchup between the Indiana Fever and the Atlanta Dream. Boston, known for her physical and dominant post presence, was in the heat of competition when, during a post-up move, her elbow connected with the face of Alisha Gray. It was a sudden and jarring sight. Gray stumbled back and hit the court hard. The referees paused the game to review the footage and eventually issued Boston a flagrant foul. It didn't take long for that moment to circulate online. Within hours, clips of the incident were dissected frame by frame, fans and critics alike speculating on Boston's intent. Some came to her defense immediately, citing the natural contact that occurs in post-play. Others, however, weren't so forgiving, arguing that the elbow was reckless at best and malicious at worst. Boston didn't immediately respond. She didn't issue an apology or defend herself in front of the media. Instead, she stayed quiet, perhaps calculating, perhaps simply focused on basketball. That silence, for some, was interpreted as guilt or indifference. It created a vacuum, one that others were all too willing to fill with their own narratives. But now, in a succinct and pointed reply to a social media user who accused her of deliberately elbowing Gray, Boston finally pushed back. "I would never do that on purpose, so that's crazy why," she wrote in the comment that has since gone viral. Her tone, part disbelief, part hurt, and entirely human, struck a chord with many. She went on to say, "Why you mad if she not mad?" referencing the lack of public animosity from Gray herself. It was a moment of clarity and honesty that seemed to clear the air for many fans who had waited to hear from the player at the center of the controversy. What makes Boston's response so powerful is not just its content, but its context. In a league that is often under intense scrutiny and still fighting for equal representation and understanding, how female athletes handle conflict matters. Every action, every word, is magnified. Boston's decision to respond in a raw, unfiltered way, directly to a fan, broke through the noise in a way no press release could. Behind the controversy is a young athlete who has spent her entire career building a reputation for poise, physical brilliance, and leadership. From her days at South Carolina under the tutelage of Dawn Staley to her meteoric rise in the WNBA, Boston has rarely been associated with anything other than excellence and professionalism. That reputation, however, was tested in the aftermath of the Gray incident. The firestorm of fan reactions, media takes, and online debates placed Boston in a position that's all too familiar in professional sports, being cast as a villain for a split-second action in a high-speed game. The elbow was visible, yes. The fall looked dramatic, absolutely. But anyone who has watched basketball at the elite level understands the speed and physicality involved. Players battle for position with every inch of their bodies. Contact is inevitable. And while the rules exist to protect players, intent is not always clear-cut. Still, for Boston, the lack of clarity in that moment became a weight. In the weeks following, while her play remained consistent and dominant, the question hung in the air. Fans speculated whether her silence was a PR decision, a personal choice, or something else entirely. Did she feel guilty? Was she avoiding the conversation?